trying to insinuate?
Yeah, but
Big boy's back. Just listen.
good morning.
Paul Allen, how are you?
Alec Lewis, I'm doing quite well. Thank you very much, my friend. How's your father, John?
He's good. We went to the SEC basketball tournament last week in Nashville. We do it every year. It's like our father-son thing.
And I was wondering, do you stay to the end?
Yeah, we go.
Okay.
I got there Thursday night. I was on my phone for 4 days more than I wanted to be.
Not anymore.
That's
Thank heavens.
yeah.
And by the way, why I mean, I don't want to get tangential on you here, but like, why do people think that if we have differing opinions or differing sources and the race is over and who cares who won, the race is over, that we would argue?
Yeah, well, I mean, I said this. I mean, the people listening, I don't even mind if they know this. Like, I'm so grateful for you having me on the radio as much as you have since I moved up here. I don't ever take that for granted. And I love coming in and seeing you and Nordo.
They're not listening to you over
and
there.
And it means a lot to me.
Yeah.
So like
Program director's mad at me.
So yeah, So I just like, I hope people know that. And I hope people know that we talk off the microphone as well. So, no, but it's, yeah, I mean, it was, my dad is great. Mm-hmm. It was phenomenal. I was a little perturbed Saturday evening. We had this nice dinner plan, or one nice dinner of the trip. Mm-hmm. And we're in the Uber on the way to dinner, and I get text that the Vikings are trading for Jordan Mason. And I wasn't perturbed about the trade because I think this guy is absolutely phenomenal. And I thought that move of all of them, it's probably the most underratedly impressive move that they have made.
Second for me, but go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, which is high considering the amount of good moves that they've made.
I'm an Isaiah Rodgers guy
I like Isaiah
settling that bet, but anyway.
No, he's going to be sneaky good.
Yeah,
I'm excited for him.
But so we're going to dinner. We're in the Uber, and I'm getting texts about Jordan Mason, and I've already been on the phone, and I'm watching basketball, and it was mayhem. My dad is great. It was really, I mean, those 3 days. Like I've started to think about this. I mean, anytime that I get to spend, my parents live in Alabama. I've lived up here. I lived in Kansas City. I went to school at Mizzou. Like, I don't take for granted the opportunities that I have to spend time with them. That stuff means a lot to me. So, it was awesome. The basketball was, I mean, I cannot believe how good Florida is at basketball. Right. It was incredibly impressive.
Now, with your father, John, and heading to dinner in Smashville, and that's where the SEC tournament was. Uh-huh. I mean, he had to be proud of baby boy because he's with you. You're going to dinner. He's going to pay for it. You're working during that time because that's what you do, and you're very good at it. So, you know, as a father with a 24 and a 22-year-old, I try to put myself in that situation, and it's like, A, I'm proud of you because you're doing a good job here. B, you on your phone means I get to be on my phone more. So you can go ahead and break as many stories as you want.
I think, yeah.
And then your mom just sat there in silence.
Well, I think there was pride. There's pride, but he's like, I'd also been on the phone from Thursday night, Friday, Saturday. So I think at that point.
How is Diana? I haven't talked to her in a while.
Diana and I spoke this morning, and we have multiple times. So, but no, it was. I think
tough beat there.
What'd you say?
It was a tough beat for her there, but anyway. I'm kidding.
Oof,
kind of.
Yeah. I just want to make it very clear, I guess, that what we reported was that the Vikings were strongly considering the Aaron Rodgers situation.
Mm-hmm. Now, I'd eliminate the word strongly, but that's just me.
Okay. Well, I can also tell you what I tweeted early this morning is that there were many, and I tweeted that in all caps, people inside that building who are for in support of the possibility of that.
I'm not counting the people in the VEN or the account executives on the third floor.
That is a funny comeback.
There are a lot of people in that building.
That's a good question. That's a good comeback. I have nothing to say about that.
Right.
But I don't source people in the VEN department. Is what I would say.
Neither do I.
So it has been an interesting last week. I'm excited that now, hopefully this weekend, I can just watch NCAA tournament games and be a normal human being. Mm-hmm. But I think the one thing I will make it very clear is, like, there is the truth that the team wants you to hear and wants you to know, and then there is the actual truth. And there are people within the team that do a lot to ensure that a certain perception exists. That is the job of a lot of people within the team. And it is my job to tell the truth, even if that raises some very hard questions, some very notable questions, some very curious questions. But that's the job. And so even if that, like, sometimes when you report the truth that goes against what people would want you to report, that you could find yourself in tense situations with relationships that matter. But the job is to tell the truth above to value those relationships. Mm-hmm. That's where I am. That's where I will always be. If that prevents me from getting to the pinnacle of this business as an insider or what have you, then that I'm okay with that, because you and I have talked on air, off air. I do this job for the people, for the stories, but my role right now, I also do the job to tell the truth.
Right.
And so that's just what I have to say about that.
Right. Well, I wasn't really going to go down this road with you, but now I am.
Okay.
Because by you saying with what you've reported, tweeted, and or whatever, you're telling the truth, which would fly in the face of what I believe to be truth.
Okay.
So therefore, what I've tweeted or said into the radio, I believe to be truth. And I believe the sourcing that I've done is unimpeachable. So therefore, when I start last Thursday, saying, there's a Rolling Stones song that you can't always get what you want, that's the theme song for Aaron Rodgers, because he was told no. So then therefore, when Rodgers or when people are reporting certain things, and I don't have this as fact, so I'm writing discernment with this part, I'm believing the majority of the information is coming from his side. And then when I know it's an absolute no, which I guess would be this morning, but really a few days up to it, the way I handle it is why, if Rodgers knows he's not going to come here, and I believe he's known that for several days.
And I don't.
Okay. It doesn't behoove the beaten side to go to the plugged in sources and say, that's it. We got beat. That's it. Whole thing's done.
I think the other thing that I would say, again, and I'm not going to question your, this is not what I'm
not offended at all by any opposite you have, by the way. Because I know my source is unimpeachable.
Right.
No, it is. It's the end of the story.
Right.
That's why I just don't do it the way Schefters and Pelliceros. I don't ever do this. Either do you. So therefore,
no, it's not right.
Yeah, I don't like it. Quite honestly,
I don't either.
Yeah.
I told one of my best friends last night. Again, just like what I've said to you, what I just said is I do the story that is pinned on the top of my Twitter, where I went and spent time with Kyrie Jackson's family and did a story about. That is the stuff that actually matters, that relates to human being. That is why I do the job.
Amen.
And that's where I am. But what I would tell you is the assumption from a lot of people is that the sourcing is from Aaron Rodgers' agent.
Some of it is. I'm not saying with you, but there was a lot of sourcing out there, YA.
There is a lot
from a lot of different people.
Right. There is sourcing from a lot of people. But I would ask, what I would say is I would ask to be, you better be very sure if you are specifying that a source is a certain place.
Yeah.
You better be dang sure to do that,
right,
because you're questioning the credibility of people who care a lot
Agreed.
About doing the job the right way.
Agreed.
And again, certain sources, specifically with the team, with as much as they have on the line, would like people to believe a certain thing because it benefits them. That is what.
But that's not me.
I'm not saying it is.
So that's why I'm saying when I say, well, semantics with these tweets and stuff like that, I believe is a key word here.
It is.
Because strongly to one person is not strongly to another. I've said on the radio, maybe with you, I would be a fool to believe with all the decision makers, coaches and players, and personnel people within that building, I'd be an idiot to say there's not one whose opinion matters. That's like, we got to look at this. We got to talk about this. Okay. Yes. If that happened with multiple people, it wouldn't surprise me, but that doesn't necessarily make it strong consideration. It makes it consideration. And yes, I agree. I mean, a 0 out of 75, 85 people. No, that ain't happening. It just takes one to check the consideration box. When it comes to strongly considering, that's semantics. I mean, that's, that I don't know how to explain strongly. Strongly to one person is different than me, maybe.
And I do also want to say this from the outside. If you're a fan listening to this, driving around your car, listening at home, wherever you are, and you're listening to this and it's like, explain to me the preposterous nature of the fact that you would move on from a guy who won 14 games and threw for 4,300 yards and then have the next starter be a 41-year-old who just I totally understand why you would view that as preposterous. I'd also say there is always a lot at play that does not surface because it is of the priority for people who have an incentive for it not to surface.
No, it's not. I'm sorry, but again, I don't believe priority. For some, it is the right word. But I'm going to speak for myself here now that this thing is done. I don't delve in this game. So when I get frustrated enough and I feel like I need the right answer, I'm going to go get the right answer and start putting it out a certain way, mostly on the radio, because it's broadcasting as opposed to narrowcasting, which is social media. And that's what 9 to Noon did. But I'm not going to be like per source. And you're not, we're not like that, man.
No.
So just off what you just said, just in closing there, priority that if it's respect, man. I mean, I don't play this game. You play it more than me. If I'm getting help to get me to the finish line and I'm asked to not share certain things, it's not because I don't think I'm going to be voice of the Vikings in 2025. It's because I have respect for somebody helping me. So it's not a priority to eliminate, I've known this and I've thought this and I'm worried about this. If you're asked to not share, respectfully, you don't share. And those who do, shame on them.
Right. No, I mean, that's for certain. I mean, there are certain, this gets into a much broader journalism conversation about on the record, off the record, on background. And there are a lot of ways you can go into that. And I've told my dad, I've told my friends that I believe that I could teach a journalism class based upon what I have witnessed, heard, viewed from this past week. I really strongly think it would be a very educational class that was not taught in journalism school because it cannot be taught unless you are within these dynamics. It is a very interesting situation.
No, it's a shoe size contest, man. It becomes a shoe size contest to see who can get first, who can get what first, and beat so-and-so. I think it sucks. I'm not into that game.
No, and again.
But I wanted to be into the game this time because I had people who matter to me perplexed by it, and they care about things that I care about. So I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to go do my best to dagger this thing.
No question. And I mean, in terms of like the shoot, like I think, the hard part is the way that media has evolved and kind of social media's presence has kind of, there's just, again, it speaks to a much bigger conversation. But I'm in a similar position to you, and you and I both know that we've talked about this off air before, that wading into the information game is not something that is a priority for me. It's just not.
Agreed.
It's just not where I am, because it can get very dicey, and there are times where you are upholding relationships for a reason and reporting certain things for a reason, or you're navigating relationships because you're saying things. I mean, these are
agreed.
It is a very interesting dynamic. So again, yes, there are certain semantics as part of it, but I will say again, that what I put on social media this morning is that there were many people internally, and I'm not talking about VEN. Nothing against VEN. I like VEN.
I know what you mean.
But I'm talking about
I may even know who you mean.
I'm talking about staffers with who are not just. I'm just talking from a
people
realistic.
Who matter.
Yes, who were very intrigued by the possibility, and that to me makes you ask questions.
Yes.
Why?
Yes.
And I think those questions, to ask them, you get closer to the truth as opposed to what the team would prefer you to think.
Right. Very fairly stated. And now, so with everybody, so now with the boring, repetitive talker done.
Sure.
And it was daggered this morning by .com Tom. So what are you on to next? I mean, does it go to draft?
I mean, first, I think the unfortunate part of the last week is that it has prevented us from talking about how good of a freaking last week they just had.
Friendships have been fractured.
No, friendships have not been fractured, at least in my estimation.
Sigley never wants to talk to you again.
The Jordan Mason trade, the Jonathan Allen signing, Javon Hargrave. You watch film of Javon Hargrave? My goodness.
Javon.
Isaiah Rodgers?
Yeah.
You watch film of him going up against Puka Nacua and the Rams? I mean, you want to talk about Ryan Kelly, Will Fries?
I do.
And the potential of the interior of the offensive line being as revamped as it's been. You want to talk about how many avenues they have in the draft not to have to select a certain player because they have shored up so many spots that they can just take the best player available. Like where it goes for me is now you can give the credit where the credit is owed to ownership for spending the money, to the front office and the coaching staff for being very savvy with the moves that they made. And really to these new guys for choosing Minnesota. Like, I think that analysis I want to get to. I want to talk about. I love that aspect of it. And hopefully now we can start to get there. Like, I know some players that they signed are going to talk today. I'm looking forward to talking to them. I don't know if Ryan Kelly's going to be the most electric talker in the world, but
we got the Zoom bits, don't we?
Right. So that's where my mind goes, and that's where my excitement goes. And then, we talk about draft priority. Is it interior defensive line still? What if that's evolved? Is it interior offensive line? Would they do something to have left guard? Is safety an option? Tight end? Like, these are the conversations that are fun.
Yes.
That I love.
Yes.
And paired with that is my ability to now report some big stories, some big ideas that I've had that I love doing. So and I get to watch the freaking NCAA tournament, which I'm excited to do. So that's where I'm at now. Yes.
If there were, and there probably are odds, with the guy, the quarterback, the one who was spurned, Roland Mick Jagger, and Mick Jagger wrote that song about him. You can't always get what you want. If there were odds out there, and it's like Steelers even money for his next move, retirement 15-1. I'm shoving in mega black chips on retirement. What about you?
Why does he have to make a decision now?
Well, the Steelers with the draft looming, and ain't nobody tripping on the Giants. I mean, if Aaron Rodgers,
I don't know what the Giants. I mean, I don't know what they were doing when they let Saquon go, Xavier McKinney go. Yeah. I don't know what they're doing now. They didn't.
Jahad Ward.
They've kept their. Yeah, honestly.
Seriously.
I mean, Joe Shane, Brian Daboll. They're humming along.
Yeah. Right, but it's the Steelers. You know, when Cam Hayward is like, well, here's the pitch, bro. You're in or you're out.
Well, what is their backup option? That's
Mason Rudolph. And you know what? Mason Rudolph, I shrugged my shoulders too, and we probably would be right at the end of the equation. It was pointed out to me early in the radio show. Mason Rudolph recently had a season with Steel Curtain where he finished 3-0 and pushed Buffalo right to the wire in the playoffs and looked really good. It's Mason Rudolph, but they with the swiftness with which they brought him in, then it's clear that they wanted a buffer because they know those of the narcissistic variety who like to search their name on social media to see how much everybody's talking about them. Well, that might take a little bit. So I would imagine the Steelers, they need an answer relatively soon.
I mean, again, but do they? And if you are Aaron Rodgers, why sign with the Steelers if you're not gung-ho about it? Why not wait?
For what?
Wait to see if a quarterback gets injured, if there's a better opportunity available for you. Why would you just jump at it? Unless you do feel like, you know what? If you're Aaron Rodgers and it's like the Steelers make a ton of sense, I'm going to do this right now. But
if Justin Fields doesn't say no to them, would they even be in on Aaron Rodgers?
And Fields did say no to them.
Yeah, Fields got, I believe, more money from the Jets than probably anybody expected.
Yeah, I think it was pretty close from what I understand.
But would they be in on Rodgers? In some ways, is this a secondary route for even the Steelers at this point as well?
Wow.
Yes, I believe so. And I mean, the other name there that it's like if Rodgers, let's just say, because nobody has any idea on the timeline for his decision.
Yeah, that's pretty cool too, by the way, when you're working with somebody and they don't get back to you for half a day. That's pretty good commitment.
The other aspect is, I mean, if Aaron Rodgers were to retire, then they have Mason Rudolph. Then do they in Pittsburgh, do they ponder, not Christian, do they ponder doing Kirk Cousins? Could they trade for Kirk Cousins? I mean, could Kirk then be in play for Pittsburgh?
Well, how's that going to happen when he's going to be the backup here?
I mean, it's not the most.
Oh my God!
It's not the.
You think Bobby Morris can get by the Tide in the first round? Probably not, right?
No chance.
Vandy in the second round?
I think Vandy beat him maybe late in the year, but really? I'm taking Bama.
And then I have BYU, VCU, Wisconsin. I mean, those are three, and Wisconsin's a three, but Poopy Dave watches a ton of college basketball and informs me that BYU and VCU are both pretty good.
They're all good.
Scrappy teams.
Those two teams are good.
Tide.
Wisconsin's got a guy, Tanji, who actually had been at Mizzou.
Yeah.
And Mizzou's had a heck of a year there in the tournament. They played Drake.
They got like a Blackwell or a Blackstone too.
Drake's pretty good.
That's what I hear.
I got to tell you, I was at the SC tournament. I watched Florida run the table. I just not sure how any team's going to beat that team.
I've heard that.
They have incredible guard play. They protect the rim better than everybody with like four guys who are 6+, 6'9" plus. I mean, they have everything I think you could want to have. The team's confident. Their guard, Walter Clayton, is as good of a college guard as I've seen. I'm telling you, the SEC tournament got me very much into what we're about to see in the NCAA tournament, and I'm glad that I get to watch it and enjoy it.
Unencumbered, for the most part.
Yeah.
Billy Donovan's done a good job down there.
We're coming. We're coming.
Billy
We'll be right back. You lucky suckers.
What in the ham fat is going on with you guys?
Time for two more.
Personal foul. Personal foul. Clipping.
9 to noon.
Yes! Get over it!
Thank you.
What'd you think of the Jeff Okudah signing?
I kind of liked it. I remember, and maybe I'm crazy, but that Week 3 2022 game between the Lions and the Vikings, you'll probably remember this. KJ, I think, caught a pass to win the game. But I remember that day, Justin had 3 catches, and Okudah was very physical with him that day. I think he got flagged. I got to go back and look this up. I think Okudah might have been flagged like 3 times in that game. And obviously, he had help over the top and probably triple-teamed eyes everywhere, all over the place that whole day. But the physicality to me is a nice addition to a cornerback room with some guys that are definitely slight. And so, I mean, I think if Brian Flores sees potential in being able to maximize a guy's skill set, like, I mean, I'm not gonna question that vision in terms of if Brian Flores is in on a player.
Yep.
Probably at this point should listen on that. So.
I don't know. I see again.
But he's had a lot of injuries.
Off our previous conversation, it's like it's Kwesi is the general manager. Okay, so if you trade back and Lewis seen as a flop, he gets killed for that. If you draft Addison and it's working, well, he gets credit for that. So you understand what I'm saying with that. That is he's the point person here. Well, so therefore, with me, I don't care how they get to the winner's circle. As long as they get there, they're getting their picture taken and we're all cashing bets. I mean, that's really all. So therefore, what I'm getting at here is, well, yeah, but I mean, Flores picked out Van Ginkel and Grenard, and Pettin went and found this guy. And,
right. No, you can litigate
okay, cool,
that.
great. I'm glad that happened. That's called teamwork.
Right.
Okay, that's called teamwork, and it's not called somebody who has to have, like the breaking news bits. They have to for that. And with the breaking news bits, by the way, if they're right, let me ask you this. Okay. Milton Williams, big free agent signing, right?
Yeah.
Who had it first?
I have no idea.
End of story. That's why that crap sucks.
Yeah, you're talking to someone who would.
But what I'm saying about the free agents and the road you were going down is, I go to Kwesi. I don't go to Kwesi and talk to him. I'm like, well, Kwesi Adolfo-Mensah's the general manager. If that didn't work, he's going to get ripped. Not by me, probably, but some others. Or, well, I'm not a big rip guy. There are different ways to talk about things. Or if there's credit, then he and his staff are going to get credit.
Of course.
Yeah,
it's just like
with Okudah, Flores, I got no idea.
Zero penalties in that game, by the way. Technically, Okudah flagged for holding. It was declined. It was Oruwariye. Remember Oruwariye?
Yeah, Aruze.
I've been trying. He absolutely just got cooked in that game.
This is a very meek. I've been trying to get the film of that 2022 game between the Lions and the Vikings so I can rewatch Okudah. And
no, you're right with what you said.
My film plug has not hooked me up on. I'm really trying to get access to that because I just want to rewatch that game. It's important to me, but I don't know why it's important to me, but yeah, in terms of what you just said regarding Kwesi, Kevin, defensive staff, personnel. Yeah, if you win, then everyone's going to get a lot of credit. If you lose, then everyone's probably going to get a lot of blame. That's just the nature of how the business goes. And behind the scenes, certain people may have more emphasis on certain decisions, but everyone benefits. And that's kind of the reality. And I also say this, like, you're dealing with football organizations with people who are very convicted in what they believe, and they're alphas, and they come at it with different expertise. So if there's not any kind of, conversation, communication, disagreement, like that's what you should expect from any business and any leadership structure ever.
The Jordan Mason move. We haven't chatted since it happened. And I'm going to lead into it like this because maybe I'm wrong here, but I know he got a second round tender. So maybe the proverbial writing was on the wall. The 49ers were willing to get rid of him. Okay, cool. He's good and he's young and it's a 6 next year and some insignificant pick swap. How?
The stat that is the craziest to me is last year, Next Gen Stats has statistic rushing yards over expected per attempt. So how many yards you're generating more than what would be expected for you to get. Jordan Mason was third in the NFL in that statistic. The two guys ahead of him were Derrick Henry and Saquon Barkley. Pretty good company to be alongside. He also had the highest, I believe, forced missed tackle rate in the NFL. I'm not acting like this guy's Eric Dickerson. I'm really not. He's a 25-year-old former undrafted guy from Georgia Tech. But you and I were both at US Bank Stadium in 2022, in like week 2 or 3 of this past season, where he was pressing the edge and cutting back. And I think he ran for 100 yards on 20 carries in that game. And it was incredibly impressive. So, the Vikings saw what he can do in person, and you pair that type of size with the guy who can handle a workload with Aaron Jones and the elusiveness and the explosiveness that he has, and you kind of platoon these guys. I mean, to me, even with this draft being as good as it is from a running back perspective, I mean, if you can get a 25-year-old who has the potential that Jordan Mason has, and then leave yourself as many options as you now have in the draft, it's a no-brainer for what they gave up for him.
So any idea with the current deals and free agency moves, casting the gaze forward, what Minnesota's cap situation looks like next offseason?
Yeah, right now, if you look at like over the cap, it looks like they are over the cap.
A minus 30 or something? I think Nordo said that earlier.
I think it may be that. It may be less than that. I think it's less than that, but I could be wrong.
It was based on I think just top 51 over the cap. I didn't dig into it. I ain't Brzezinski or an actuary here.
And
but
it's boring.
But it's about 9 over.
Oh, 9.
Yeah, 9.
My bad.
So that's where I think rolling that cap over, if there's some extra cash, let's go.
So here's what I'd say.
Thank you.
To the question of why would they not front load these contracts? Why would they have such small cap hits for this 2025 season?
Yeah.
What are they saving this cap space for? Well, any potential move that becomes possible, you now have the cap space for it. Not to say that any major move is going to become possible, but if it does, just like in 2022 when they traded for TJ Hawkinson, they had the cap space to be able to make that move. So it gives you flexibility for now. And then to Nordo's point, you can roll over cap space. So even if they don't spend it, they will have it for next year. And then plus, for the people that are worried about next year, like, why are we over the cap for 2026? There are multiple ways that you can create cap space. You can restructure players like Justin Jefferson's deal. You can cut players to generate more cap space. And then the cap is likely to go up just as it has the last 2 off seasons. So I don't think I don't think worrying about that. I think if anything, like with everything this organization tends to do, they want to give themselves as much flexibility and as many options to be as malleable with their roster as they can be.
Yep.
And I think this is another example of that.
Well, now that the boring, repetitive talker's in the rearview mirror and the bulk of free agency is done, when we return, we'll close with Alec Lewis with The Athletic, helping us along with the feeling about the draft and the Vikings at 24. That and more when 9 to noon wraps it up after this.
I can't wait until tomorrow, 'cause tomorrow might very well be too late.
So what do you think about that 24 after everything that's been done? Alec Lewis, host of the Alec Lewis Show on YouTube. Learn more via his Twitter feed at Alec_Lewis. And our dear friend Tim Siegley, listening to us now in Florida, the owner of First Resource Bank. He contributes to the cause, and Tim is salt of the earth. And Alec does a really good job with the podcast, including the mailbag from a couple of days ago. But 24.
You're talking about 24 Mason? You're talking about Jordan Mason?
No, I'm talking about pick number 24.
Oh.
So you got Kelly and Fries and Javon Hargrave and Jonathan Allen. Just what they have, and the 24 quickly approaching.
I mean, to me, there's a ton of ways to go about it. I mean, you can just take the best player available there, if that makes sense. You could trade back. I mean, they need more picks over the next 2 drafts. That seems pretty clear. So that'd be an opportunity to do it. You could trade back, and then, I mean, you could even trade back again. You could get as creative as you possibly want to get. But I still think it makes sense to draft interior offensive line, interior defensive line.
With you.
Potentially running back, potentially tight end, potentially safety. Like that, there's a cornerback, obviously. So there are a lot of ways to go about it. And I think that's, rather than needing a running back to pair with Aaron Jones, rather than needing a right guard, you have a lot of routes that you could take at this point. And so it's going to be very interesting, and it's going to be hard to peg because of the flexibility they have.
Take out Florida from the equation. So you know more about college basketball than us, and you just went to the SEC tournament. Have you followed or seen, like, if I Google NCAA tournament sleepers, Well, I mean, you see San Diego, you think it's a cross between the 27 Yankees and the 85 Bears. That's like the number one that comes up, the Tritons. Okay, so like a sleeper for the NCAA tournament, I have one bracket left to fill out. Like, what sleeper do you like to get to like the Elite Eight?
Man, that's a good question.
Alabama? That's not a sleeper though.
Yeah, I love St. John's because I just think Patina, but that's a 2 seed. So
well,
that's
I like Memphis. See, like, what's Memphis? You don't like Memphis?
Well, like VCU, you mentioned earlier, like they're kind of interesting to me.
Nobody likes Memphis. Okay.
I mean, there's a lot that's interesting, but I'm trying to think of who else. Like Tennessee. What's Tennessee seed? Are they a 2 seed?
That's a 2.
Yeah, so I'm giving you I'm giving you a terrible job.
Yeah,
Mizzou, honestly,
you thought the Eagles were a sleeper into the 2024 football season.
Right. Eagles Chiefs seem like the sleeper Super, but no,
we got to go.
I think Houston's got a chance to win a couple of games.
Yeah, Duke could be pretty good.
I mean, Flag, I hear he's decent, even on one ankle.
If he's playing, I mean, I wish Florida was more of a sleeper, but they're literally the second overall seed. I think so.
You're the best. Thank you for the conversation.
No, I appreciate it, and I just it's just it means a lot to me. Like I said, and I said this on my podcast, like their credibility for me means more than anything else. And so does the truth. So that's my guide. That's why I've done this for 11 years, and that's kind of going to be my guide moving forward.
You're 10 of 10 with 9 to noon on all levels.
Thank you.
And that's the end of the story.
Nordo, good to see you.
Good to see you.
And the end of the radio show. Why? Because up on the stage, ladies and gentlemen, about to croon for you. Got the spotlight on him. All the ladies want to know his name. Ladies and gentlemen, we present Big Daddy Khan.
Now, show us, please, what you can do, Jeff Akuta.
I had to get some run out of that because it took me about 20 minutes to hit that falsetto, and I did it poorly anyway. But
after my man has 4 picks next year, we'll be running it wild.
To all the fans with the bellies like Buddha, jiggling out of glee for the signing of Jeff Akuta. Secret to the tailgate, nachos heavy on the Gouda. Vikings looking for the #1 spot like Luda. Rodgers rumors, watch him evaporate. JJ McCarthy season, no need to elaborate. Beefing up the O-line, we'll be watching him dominate. Write him down atop the depth chart and laminate. Let's conversate. Wait, is that a formal word? I'm trying to rhyme as opposed to converse is preferred. Trying to keep up with the final hour, what I heard. Sometimes I have the attention span of a small bird. Now tomorrow, will there be steam? Celebrating a pair of wins from our favorite teams. Wolves pummel Zion and the wins keep stacking. Boldy gets off the schneid as the Wild smack the Kraken.
That's unbelievable.
Podcast today's Paul Allen Show, or listen back to previous show and interviews by going to the iHeartRadio app or KFAN.com.